Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today in Warcraft Rumble, I am going to show you my best deck yet, my General Drakkisath build, which so far has not lost a single game. Now, many of you might not believe me. I am at 1873 rating right now, and I have never lost a game with this deck so far. Obviously, I'm not saying this is a deck that is completely unbeatable. It is just a very powerful deck in the current meta. So in this video, I'm gonna go over every unit and Drakk himself, as well as which talent you should try getting, or if you do need the talent or not. I'll give you a few alternate units as well, and then I'll talk to you about the general strategy behind my deck while I'm showing you gameplay of me playing it in the PvP system currently. So first, we're gonna jump right into Drakk himself. If we go here into the deck, obviously General Drakk is a very powerful unit. Now, one of the biggest thing about him is that he has 8,000 HP. He is a massive tank, but not only does he have that much HP, he does incredible damage. He hits very hard. He, I think, 4 or 5 shots tower, and he just 1 or 2 shots most of the weak units or range unit in this game, and he trades better than any tank, any like ground unit, any non-flying unit. He trades incredibly well against them. So he's a very hard hero to stop. There is really a lot that you can do against him. So one of the reasons that he is so powerful right now and why I'm winning so much is because he has resistant. Of course, resistant means you take less elemental damage. Currently, the towers do elemental damage, and a lot of the meta units do elemental damage. So having this resistant makes him very powerful in this meta specifically, as well as his ability will make it so that nearby enemies take 50% more elemental damage. So this is a very big part of his strategy. You do need to master that before you can master this deck, which means that when you have him around, you do need elemental units either supporting him or spells and elemental damage helping him. Now, my best example of that is the Safe Palette. When the Safe Palette drops, it does elemental damage, and the Safe Palette herself does elemental damage, as well as like the Shaman, the Pyromancer. These are all elemental damage sources. So they are really good support units for him, because if you drop the Safe Palette while he's around, you will one-shot most units that the Safe Palette wouldn't one-shot beforehand, which makes a very big difference in the meta right now with things like the Huntress, Headhunters, and stuff like that. The Safe Palette is so powerful. If you drop it on them while Drakk is tanking, you will always kill them instantly, basically. So this is a really big part. Now, you don't need a talent on Drakk for him to be good at all, but if you do have chromatic skills, it is incredibly OP right now with this meta, because he gives his resistant trait to everyone around him, which makes them survive a lot of stuff like the Safe Palette, for example, right? So you have Drakk somewhere, someone supporting him, like the Headhunter, the Shaman, a Safe Palette, whatever you have, and someone drops a Safe Palette on you. Well, the Safe Palette will not one-shot all those units because of this talent alone. And then you will kill the Safe Palette and survive. It can make a big difference, and a lot of people do not know how to play against this, which is why they are losing quite easily to this deck. So this is one of the things about this hero that is just incredibly powerful, and the cost of 5 is really not that high for how much work he does. Even just here in the little video, you can see with the Molten Giant, he outtrades it, even though the Molten Giant is a 6 cost and doesn't offer any of the good buffs that the General does. So really an absolute tank of a unit. He is insane. Now, next in this deck, of course, a lot of this is meta units, right? So the Whelp doesn't need much talking about. It's in every deck. Flame Burst makes this incredibly powerful, especially with Drakk's, elemental damage increase. This does count as elemental damage. So does the damage the Whelp do themselves when they hatch. So very powerful. A must play in this deck. Also helps you have air or counter units like Drakk himself. This is one of the counters to him by itself. So obviously a very powerful unit. You place the eggs in the middle of enemies, they explode and everybody dies. Everything that has weak HP dies, and then it summons Whelp. If you don't have anti-air, it will just, kill you, as well as making you waste your time to hit the eggs one by one. So this is absolutely massive. Whelp eggs is a very strong unbound thing you can place anywhere. Defensively, aggressively, defending Drakk himself if someone spawns, let's say, some air against you, while you put the eggs with Drakk and then he has air supporting him. So there's many ways of doing this. This is obviously a must-have in this deck. Now, in this position here, I have been playing around with the Dark Iron Miner. Now, the Quillbore, which is a very meta resistant unbound unit, is a very, very viable option here. I would definitely put the Quillbore here for most people, especially if you don't have the talent. Now, in this case, with the Gold Mine talent on my Dark Iron Miner, I do really like this talent because it gives you a lot of control in the current map on top of the bridge, as it creates a little explosive that will trigger even under the bridge, as well as kills, you know, any miner, anything from the Baron, the little summon skeletons and stuff. It really one-shots a lot of these units. And I'm pretty sure it's also elemental damage. So again, if Drakk is around, those mines will hit for more. And then it's just a lot of map control. You can drop him anywhere. He's unbound. He does trade pretty well. He trades well against like a safe pallet even. If you drop him on the safe pallet, he kind of 1v1s her or does a pretty good job at holding her off. And, you know, in general, he's just a pretty good unit. But the Quillbore also works in the same aspect here. If you do not have the Gold Mine talent on the miner, just go for the Quillbore with no talent or the Tunnel Vision talent, which are both obviously excellent. And the Quillbore is probably the most meta, most OP unit currently in the game because it costs 2 and it is resistant. It tanks the tower, it 1v1s a lot of people and takes the chest very easily. This is really the job. Taking the chest and tanking towers is what they are most used for. Now, next, the Shaman. Now, this is a must as well in this deck. Really, this is one of the units you need to have the talent for it to really be good. Now, she can follow Drakk and heal him as well as provide air support, and she does a very good job at that. But with the Earth Shield talent, this is just too powerful. It grants armor to a nearby ally. Ability has 1 charge. So basically, when she spawns the first ally close to her, she will grant Earth Shield, which gives that unit armored, which makes it take less damage from melee physical damage. So Drakk already has resistance against elemental damage. With the Shaman, he also gets armored. That means that he takes less damage from every source of damage in the game. So obviously he's already pretty powerful, as we talked about. So this is just next level. They are a must. They must be played together. 5 and 4, you play them together. You make sure the Earth Shield goes on Drakk. Very hard afterwards to counter Drakk without spending an excessively amount of gold on units to counter him and the Shaman specifically. You know, it costs you 11, but it will cost the enemy the same, if not more, just to kill them. And usually they get a tower for almost free because of how Drakk, how powerful he is. So the other ones are not bad. It's just currently Earth Shield is really just the best for Drakk. It is incredible. Now, to go with that, the Dark Spear Troll, of course, currently my favorite unit in the game. He can 1v1 any towers if he's not answered, and he can 1v1 almost any 3 cost unit in the game, and some even higher cost than 3, he can 1v1 them. He is absolutely incredible, but he needs Big Bad Voodoo to really shine because that is what gives him the heal. So what I love to do sometimes is drop Drakk and the Shaman, and then a little bit later or in another lane where they eventually meet, I will drop the Spear Troll just to, you know, protect Drakk even more. Or if you like time your Drakk and Shaman at the same time as you get a chest, for example, you can summon all 3 at once. And then, you know, there are things that will kill them. You do try to make them spaced out so you don't get all AoE down at the same time. But it is really hard to counter such a push because of how much anti-air, healing, protection, and damage everything of this offers. The Troll himself is just such a threat. You need to answer him if he's in the lane. He does take down tower by himself, so it is really what makes this unit shine. If you do not have the talent and you do not use the Troll, the Pyromancer here is absolutely viable. Conflagrate is not my favorite. Pyroblast I think is much better because her AoE is already massive. So this is, you know, I don't have the best talent, it's whatever. But, you know, she does elemental damage. She has a cost of 3. She's a range. She helps against air, and she does incredible amount of AoE damage. So a very, very powerful unit, and elemental being boosted by Drakk, it is obviously a very good choice. Now, lastly, of course, we have 2 of my favorite units as well. The Defias Bandits, they're very, very good to control the middle lane. Now, in this spot, instead of them, you can also use the Prowler, the Worgen. They control middle lane very well as well. The Bandits, I just really like them. Their cost of 1 is incredibly low for how much value they offer. Like, for example, in this little scenario, you see them soloing a Pyromancer. They also almost solo a Dark Spear Troll. They solo Jaina. They solo, like, a lot of mages, you know, weak stuff. They are very powerful against it, but really, their stun is really what offers them so much value. You can put them in any lane, and they will really trade well if you have anything to support them because of how long the enemy is stunned. For the cost of 1 also, you know, you put them in the middle with the picklock and they keep getting the chest or controlling the chest lane for you. You put a support with them if the enemy puts anything like a safe power, the Quillbore, and it will be hard to beat it, and it will give you a lot of dominance in that lane with all the chests. You also can replace this, as I said, with the Prowler, which in my opinion is the best choice to replace it, as it does the same job in the middle lane, and 1v1s a lot of units like the Huntress and the Headhunter and the Safe Palette, which are always meta in this current game right now. Lastly, the Safe Palette, you can't go without any deck. You don't need the talent. The talent makes her incredibly OP, but if you don't have the talent, she still is a tree value excessively well because of the fact that she's a spell that does damage when she's dropped, and then the fact that she becomes a ranged unit that does AoE elemental damage. Again, you see the pattern, there's a lot of elemental damage, boosted by 50% when Drakk's around. It does make a big difference. No Mishloking Device is amazing on her, makes her have more free shots before getting killed. So you drop her, she does huge AoE damage, then you have her free shot once, huge AoE damage, and then usually she dies or gets a second shot off. Also very good against the tower. Right now she can get like 4 or 5 shots against the tower before dying if she's by herself tanking it from max range. So we must have in this deck. So there's a few things you can replace, of course. The Troll, the Dark Iron, and the Stiff Defiance are all things you can replace, but in my current deck, this is how I play it. I am enjoying it a lot, and this is what has given me all the success that I've had so far in PvP, where I haven't ever lost a game all the way to 1873. So you know, I will definitely lose games eventually, but right now it really just is a deck that shines very well in the current meta because most people have not found a good way of playing against it. What happens is that, you know, at the beginning of the game in PvP, you're very focused on the middle. You're getting the chest, trying to at least get one of the 2 chests, if not both, or at least make sure your opponent doesn't get both. And then there's mining that happens on the top. You do that very well with the Safe Palette, the Quillbow, or the Dark Iron, and then you have the Defiance in the middle, and then you have, you know, the Troll that can also go in the middle and support the Defiance very well and trade very well against what the opponents usually have. So that is the early game. That is what you do. Focus the middle, focus the mining. Then, after things have calmed down, you might not have an edge, but you will have enough to summon usually your Drakk and the Shaman in the back lane far away from the enemy to let them time to travel and build up the pressure. Then you can either put a Defiance behind them to go and help them, you can put a Troll behind them to go help them, or you can put a Troll in the side lane, put a Defiance in the middle lane. Then your enemy has to answer the Troll because otherwise you will solo the tower, has to answer Drakk because otherwise you will solo a tower. Otherwise, you know, things have to happen. So that's when your enemy starts reacting. Usually they'll try and react and attack your Drakk or the Shaman behind it, not realizing that the Shaman takes a lot less damage and doesn't get one-shotted anymore. And then that's when you see, you know, the tide starting to turn, because if they try anything on Drakk and it doesn't kill it, the Shaman will basically heal, and then it will go back to basically the value that they played is completely wasted. And this is where you start getting value. When you get to the tower, people are summoning, you know, Trolls and summoning Pyromancers, summoning Harpies, all that kind of stuff. Then you drop a Safe Palette on whatever they've summoned that's weak, that's flying, and then they all die, and Drakk's still there hitting the tower, and then there's like, oh, well, we need to do something, and then usually it's like panic instilled, and then the game's already over at that point. Obviously, this doesn't happen with people who play this game a lot, but a lot of decks currently don't have the answer to a Drakk and Shaman, because Safe Palette is people's answer. Polymorph or Blizzard are both things that work well, but not well enough, because you do need a pretty you know, high damage unit or 2 in order to just kill how much HP Drakk has, and the Polymorph doesn't last long enough for him to die. You know, there are situations where he can be countered, it just ends up being costing so much. So, you know, it's very powerful in that way. On top of that, as I said, the Headhunter by himself can solo tower. You send the Headhunter on the far off lane where your Drakk isn't, and then when he gets the tower, you summon like Dark Iron or the Quillbow if you have him, or the Safe Palette, and then they have, you know, 2 units attacking their tower, or at least 1 unit, the Troll himself, and something tanking the tower. And then they need to answer that, because if they don't, the Troll will kill the tower and you'll win the game. But they also have a Drakk coming in the other lane, which, as we said, we need a lot of spells and units to deal with that as well. So this is why it creates a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, you still have your Defiance going the middle lane. You still have your Safe to use in the middle lane to steal the chest if you need it. And you still have your Dark Iron Miner going at the top, mining, putting mines, countering the enemy's mining, because the mine will kill his miners. So there's really a lot going on here, and there's a lot of control. It's a reactive deck. You do need to place your unbounds. Your whelps do also a very good job to place on the path where Drakk is going around, because anything that gets summoned to fight Drakk, put the whelp right in the middle of them. They'll explode for so much damage. Most things will die. And then you'll have whelps in the air that can help you. And even if they insta die, the tree cost, as long as they take out something while they're summoned, it's again very worth it. So really it becomes a very powerful deck that has not a lot of answers, because the answers that are currently good against Drakk aren't good against the other meta that we see, the Baron and Rand meta, which are very popular in PvP right now. They don't usually put the spells that counter Drakk in their decks because it doesn't work against anything else really, or it doesn't work very well against all the meta stuff that is currently being used. So there really isn't a lot of decks currently that are equipped with answers to this push, which is why it ends up winning so much. Of course, this deck gets better with talents. Drakk's talent is probably the most important in the deck, and then the Shaman's talent. Everything else is not as optimal. I think the Whelps would be very important because it adds a lot of elemental damage on explosion, which is really good. But otherwise, you know, there's a lot of units you can change around. As I said, the Prowler doesn't need talent, the Quillboard doesn't need talent. If you don't have the Headhunter with talent, the Pyromancer doesn't need talent to be played well. Safe Pilot doesn't need talent to do her job. Obviously, all talents make any units better. That's just how the game works. But it is really the way to play right now. You know, if you don't have all the talents, you can switch around. There's a lot of units that do the same role and that can do a good job for you as you're free to play. And if you've been playing for a little while, you will eventually get, you know, talents for the units that you need. So it won't be a problem for very long as people start playing more and more and catch up from the release being only, you know, less than 2 weeks ago. It is going to be a point where everybody's going to have all the talents for the units that they want, or at least most of the talents for the meta units. So this is going to be where we see the game heading in the future. But as of now, and for the next week, or at least 2 or 3 weeks, I would say, even with the rocket towers, I think this is going to be a very, very solid deck. A few things can be changed around, but it's going to be one of those decks that's hard to counter unless you have specific things in your deck, like minis that counter it. If you have any question, make sure to drop in the comments below, as well as this entire guide will also be available in written version on the website nov.gg. So make sure to check the link in the description of this video if you are interested in seeing the guide written while you watch the video or listen to the video and build your deck, for example. As well as please make sure to subscribe, as I'm going to be making many more PvP decks in the coming weeks, as well as much more content for Warcraft Rumble. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.